Hello, and thanks so much for watching Not on My Watch. I'm your host, April Moss. When most people hear the words human trafficking, they picture a child being kidnapped by a stranger and disappearing without a trace. But the reality can look very different. Trafficking can begin quietly with a conversation online, a new friendship, someone gaining a child's trust, identifying a vulnerability, and gradually crossing boundaries before a parent ever realizes that something is wrong. My guest today is Tami Brown Rodriquez, CEO of Untrafficked, a national organization working to prevent exploitation, identify victims, support law enforcement, and help survivors find a path toward recovery. Tami has dedicated her work to protecting children and confronting the systems that allow exploitation to flourish. Today, we're going to talk about how predators are reaching children, the warning signs parents may be missing, and most importantly, what we can do to stop exploitation before it begins. Well, Tami, thank you so much for joining us today for Not on My Watch. It's an honor to have you here. And when most Americans hear about child trafficking, what do you think that they get wrong about what it actually looks like in your experience with Untrafficked?
That's such a great question. And first, thank you so much for having me. it- Trafficking has changed, right? So we used to think of trafficking as kidnapping, like what you would see on TV on the action thrillers. And now, unfortunately, the crime has changed so much that it's happening right under our noses and we don't even know about it because trafficking children and exploiting children is happening online. It's happening while they're at home, while they're at school, while they're at camp, while they're at church. It is happening all day long, every day. And we're missing it because we think it looks like a child that has been chained to a radiator or those images we see online, the dark, scary images. What we have to realize is that trafficking and exploitation today in this day and age now looks like what appears to be a trusted relationship between an adult and a child, or even peers and their friends.
Or peers and their parents, if their parents are, potentially the groomers in a situation. But I'm wondering, from your perspective and what you've learned, what are some of the vulnerabilities that predators are looking for in a child as they decide to make initial contact with a child? They want to gain their trust, but the ultimate goal is to gain control over them so that they can exploit them. Is it loneliness? Is it trouble at home or a need for attention? What do you see
You know
happening?
what? These indicators are across the board. Now, we can go with the classic, right? We can go with poverty. We can go with if there is a need in that child's life. Oftentimes, it's looking like a single family household, right? Those children are at higher risk. Their economics at higher risk. If they're a foster child or that anyway have been inside of the system, they're at a much, much higher risk of being isolated or of being exploited or groomed. But unfortunately, in today's society, it's in every single zip code. It's in every single neighborhood because we're having kids that have come from a two family or two parent home who on the outside, everything looks great, but they're hiding this dirty little secret, which is either being sextorted, where somebody is threatening them through texts, or they're being groomed online. Do you know that it only takes like 8 minutes for a predator to develop a relationship with the child now online? Eight
That
minutes.
seems like, how can that even happen? It's
The
so
bec- It's so
bizarre to think about.
well, it's because our attention spans are so short. It's because we have shifted into this digital world. And so online, you think somebody, who just texts you and says, hello, and how are you today? And that child starts to engage. There's a relationship formed. We've taken so much of the human experience out of relationships where there's no way to tell. So this makes it even more complicated because when AI is involved, it takes 8 seconds to form a relationship. So we get to really shift the conversation from the trafficking part, which is the evil, ugly, horrible abuse into how can we stop it before it even happens?
Mm-hmm.
That I think is the key.
And is that, would you say that would be parents getting involved, having conversations with their children about, you know, meeting potential people online that you don't know, potential predators, I mean? Or what do you
Oh,
recommend?
so we're at a crisis in America. 1 out of 4 children right now are either being sexually assaulted or they're having some sort of sextortion happening online right now, right at this minute, right? So 1 out of 4, that's 25% of our kids. So everybody knows somebody that this is happening to right now. Parents, what kind of conversations are you having with your children? And I know people don't want to have these awkward conversations about sex, but we have to. And
Right.
I challenge parents to stop thinking of it as the sex talk, start talking about it as safety, right? So did you see the distinction? Like safety. So it's online safety. It's kind of like brushing your teeth. Everybody does it now. And so we need to change that conversation. And we actually have resources for parents. We have a parent guide. We have a prayer guide where it teaches you how to start those conversations. And let's stop saying, you know, have you texted a nude to somebody and, oh, if you did, this is the end of the world because it'll be on the internet forever. Let's stop having those conversations and start thinking about it proactively. And those conversations could look like, hey, do you or do you know anybody who's ever sent an inappropriate picture? Wait for what the child says. It doesn't matter what they say. If they say yes, don't react. Just say it's okay. We've got ways now that we can navigate this. Let's talk about it. And you can go to the Take It Down Act and they can help us get those pictures down. And if they haven't, this is even a more interesting phenomenon where let's start talking about an exit strategy. Like in my household, when we had foster kids, like there's like the I'm the Old Testament parent. Like there's like a disciplinarian and then there's like the fun parent.
Right.
My husband's the fun parent. So in our world, you say, if you had sent a picture, who would you go to? Would you go to me or would you go to my husband? Start having those conversations. Oh man, I'd probably go to dad. Great. And what would the conversation look like? So that you're preparing them and we're practicing so that when it happens, there is already a strategy in place. There's
I think it's really
already.
smart to do it that way because a lot of times I think children are afraid of, or if you start that conversation, they're going to be embarrassed or feel shameful, or they might even think that the parent doesn't trust them. So it's so important to have these conversations ahead of time and get their take on things and how would they handle a situation. I'd love if you could just share a little bit about maybe if parents are all of a sudden noticing unexplained gifts or a second phone or secret online activity or suddenly withdrawing from the family. Are these some of the warning signs that parents are experiencing?
Yeah, we have a whole parent handbook on that, and you nailed it. Not only is it this strange shift in your kid's personality, whether they're usually very outward going and all of a sudden they're very recluse. It could certainly be gifts. In fact, we had a case recently where the gifts that were delivered to the house were a Monster drink and Takis. Those like hot, I don't know what they are, like
Yeah,
Cheetos.
yeah, like something very innocent, like, "Oh,
And
okay."
those were started to be delivered daily. And then the gifts got more expensive. And then the gifts became, they were delivering a girl to the house to have sex with the 14-year-old. And she was an adult. So we want to look for the little things. It is your kid having lunches delivered to their school? That's another big one. Or instead of eating the school lunch, they'll have Uber Eats deliver something. Is it not only additional phones, but does the child exit their phone or their computer when mom or dad walks in? Because a lot of these games have like the secret Xing out feature where the kids can toggle between screens so nobody sees what they're doing.
Wow.
So that's an important component. And the other one that we really, really recommend for families is parents, do you know how to do a social media screening, social media hygiene on your kid's phone? Now, if it was me, my kids would not be allowed to have any social media until the ripe old age of 18.
Yeah,
Our
that's our
foster,
role.
yeah, our foster kids did not get phones. Um, and so what can happen is that we can teach parents how to look for a deep fake on social media. So if you're not willing to cut the cord with social media, or you're not willing to take the kids' devices away or to monitor your kids when they're on their devices, at least know how to look for a deep fake. And it literally is super simple. You can do a reverse Google image lookup. You can take whatever that image is that this person is using for their profile, pop it into Google. It's
And
super
type
easy.
what?
And just say, how many social media accounts does this picture show up on?
Okay.
Or you can use Chat GPT, or you could use Claude, or you could use Grok. These AI tools that we are collectively a little concerned about can also help us with finding deep fakes or multiple accounts. We also know that 100% of kids under the age of 15 have been approached online by somebody they do not know. Now, I can't say that it's 100% of them have been attempting grooming or solicited for sex, because I think that would be irresponsible. But I can say 100% somebody has reached out that the children do not know. And so more conversations that we can have with our kiddos is, instead of saying, how was school today? Maybe a better question is, did you meet anybody interesting? Did anything interesting happen today? Did you meet somebody new today? Right? And start asking the right questions. And with our parent handbook and our prayer handbook, we guide families through this. And I think the other thing that's super helpful, something that I didn't have in my own story, where I know I had shared with you before our call, but my niece was trafficked here in the United States for 15 years. And it began in the school and in the classroom with a teacher. And so we didn't understand what was going on. We thought there was just behavior problems at 13. And then she would go missing for an extended period of time. And then she would start hanging around with different people. Then she started dressing very provocatively. So there were behavior challenges that we just thought, well, she's 13, right?
Mhm.
That led
Yeah.
into,
What is the difference between, well, is this normal behavior for somebody coming into their teenage years, or is there something deeper going on?
and so we need to talk about it. I think for families, this is the perfect time. We're at a crossroads. Let's bring this into the atmosphere and have these uncomfortable conversations with our kids about being safe, having safe, trusted relationships. And one of the ways that we believe is most effective is to teach kids what they can do. So let's teach them what a healthy relationship with a coach looks like. Let's teach them what a healthy relationship with a pastor, a youth minister, even a peer. We had a case where there was a young football star was exploiting 18 girls in high school. And they were cheerleaders and they were kids from good homes. And so this is not just a poverty issue. We need to be thinking this through together and collectively.
Well, one of the things I really love about Untrafficked as I was learning more about your organization is you really have moved out of just raising awareness to actually coming alongside the parents. Can you tell me what happens when a parent brings a tip to you to Untrafficked?
Yes. Yes. And this is my favorite part. And again, with my lived experience, my niece went missing and we didn't have any partners. My husband and I had to get our own PI license to do the things to look for her. So we wanted to create an opportunity where if you're concerned that something's going on and you try to have the conversation and it might be too late in the process, your child may already not be talking to you, or there may be friction in the home. the best thing they can do is go to our website, untrafficked.org. We have a tip line. Put it in. Just whatever is going on. I don't care what it is. If there's a check in your spirit and you don't know how to connect with your child or your neighbor's kid, please submit a tip, because I have a team now of 5 analysts. They're either ex-military, ex-FBI. We have one that was an ex-Navy SEAL. We have a cybersecurity specialist where we can do some initial review. Let us scrape some of the websites and look at the social medias and do that vetting. And then we will walk alongside that family member. We will reach out to you. We'll have conversations with you and share with you what we think is going on based on publicly available information. We're not investigators, publicly available information. And then if it is like this one situation we had, that we needed to package it and kick it to the FBI. And then the FBI can do FBI things. But we work beautifully with our law enforcement partners to do some of that vetting of the cases up front. Because as you know, resources for our law enforcement is limited. Only some of the big agencies have a lot of the resources that we need to kind of go deep. But if we can take that burden off them and walk with the family member. The other thing we're doing, which is really exciting, is that we're creating curriculum for family members. So for me as a family member, like I didn't know what I was doing. And I went down to recover her after 5 years the first time. I had no business going down to Virginia and going to the house where she was located. What was I thinking, right? So we want to walk with our families. We want to be that trusted source, give them guidance. We've got services that we can provide for them. We have great partners in the space that can help with additional support. And we really need, as an industry, there is no like support groups for family members. Family members don't know what to do. Sometimes they screw up the cases. Sometimes they do more harm than good. So we're looking to create kind of like an Al-Anon for AA. We want to create that for family members and friends of somebody who's been exploited or trafficked, so that we're ready to receive them once they are found. We're ready to minister and love on them in a way that doesn't re-trigger, that doesn't create shame, that really is healthy and helps the healing process. Because once we recover them, which we were fortunate enough to recover my niece 2 years ago, June, now the real work begins. Now the healing journey begins.
Restoration.
Yes. Yes.
I would love for you to share with our audience some of the important policy issues that you've been working on most recently. You're a policy strategist. Where is the system failing these children?
You know, there are so many areas, unfortunately, where we're missing the mark because of whether our legislators simply don't understand the crime. They don't understand the evolution of the crime. So I look at the space as a whole, and as a problem solver, I wanted to touch, how many kids can I touch? What's the biggest impact we can make? Here in Texas and across the nation, we've all probably seen all of the teachers that have sexual misconduct complaints filed against them, all of these, what the media is calling inappropriate relationships, which you and I know is simply rape. If it's a minor, it's rape, full stop. So one particular piece of legislation that I'm very proud of is HB 4623 here in Texas, where before, if schools were hiding sexual misconduct complaints against children, nothing could be done. Now we can sue the schools, you can pierce sovereign immunity, and parents have a remedy. And so we're hoping that schools will up the ante and do a better job reporting, dealing with, and navigating these cases. So like in Texas, that's 5.5 million kids that we were able to help to fortify and protect. And so I'm taking that particular bill nationwide. We're also doing another bill where if you are a teacher and you have an inappropriate or you rape a child, that you don't get to get off. It's 10 years jail time, full stop. Like That's it. No parole, nothing, because we've got to protect the next child. And I'm calling that Save the Next Child Act. So there's that piece. We're also creating a separate statute, a standalone statute for grooming. Because here's what we know is that it's the trust relationship. They build that trust relationship. They start giving them gifts. They start building this unhealthy bond, trauma bond, and they actually think that they are willing participants in these relationships. And so we need to cut the head off the snake, make that a standalone offense. And so when a perpetrator gets that offense on their record, now we can start tracking them. Now it really lends itself to when they do it again, and they will, then we can put them in jail. And again, my other favorite, here in Texas at least, is life in prison if you rape a child. So if you're a groomer and we start seeing that on your record, and then you have another inappropriate relationship and you have sex with a child under the age of 14, I think it should be 18, but we have to start somewhere, right? Life in prison, natural life. Again, you're not getting out. There's no parole. There's nothing, life. Now, our friends in Florida, their bill is the death sentence. So if you rape a child, it's the death sentence. I would like, that's kind of my favorite approach, but I'll take natural life in prison. So it's enhancing the crime and enhancing the penalty of the crime. It's also protecting children from groomers and predators. And of course, we like the standard policies where it is working to expunge a survivor's record. If she was forced to commit crimes while she was being trafficked, those should be expunged from her record. Because when you're in that situation and you're made to do terrible things, then it's really not fair for you to have that on your record for all the days of your life.
Sure. And that's a really important point that I haven't heard yet in our many months of doing this show. I think that's incredible. I am curious, in the instance where there is a case of, let's say, a child who is just turned 18, so very much still a teenager, lives at home with the parents, has made contact with a groomer through an app on their phone. When the parents are trying to get their child back, this child, runs away, and the police say, there's nothing we can do. She's 18. What do parents do at that point? If they feel like they know and they believe that their child has been groomed and has gotten into this situation, but the police can't get involved because legally that person is 18. What would you say to those parents?
That was our experience, right? So she started at 13, my niece, and then 15 years. And so by the time she was 18, she's an adult. And so that's why my husband and I had to get our PI license to go do things. So 2 things. One, still report it. So if you are concerned and your child is 18, or if it's somebody older than 18 and law enforcement is telling you there's nothing really we can do, please report it to our tip line, untrafficked.org. We had the case exactly like that just this week, where there was somebody that went missing. It seemed very suspicious, and they went to law enforcement. Law enforcement's like, she's 18. I know she lives with you, and she's 18. So they ended up kicking it to us, and we were able to do some of the initial vetting so that the parents could at least find out if it was foul play. And we were able to get proof of life, and the parents were able to make contact. So all is not lost. There are organizations like ours that will absolutely partner with you. Now, if they're still in school, if they're still in the public school systems, do you know that kids can be up to the age of 25 in our public school systems?
I had no idea.
So when we were making some policy recommendations for the teacher-student relationship, and I kept saying, like, the youth, Well, we had to change our languaging because there's kids up to age of 25 can be in the school system. So if they're in the school system and there's a teacher-child relationship, then we still wanted to make sure that that teacher got in trouble for weaponizing their relationship, that authority figure relationship over that child. So you and I may know that the brains don't fully develop until they're 25. So parents, if you're concerned about an adult child that has had, whether it's been some indicators or whether they're making bad choices or whether you just don't know where they are, please feel free to go to our untrafficked.org. We are here to not only support children, but also the adults that law enforcement may or may not have the resources to go look for them. And we can help. There are ways that we can support you.
That's absolutely amazing. If every parent watching this interview today did 3 things to make their child safer, what would you tell them to do?
First thing, I would go to untrafficked.org and go to our parent guide, download our parent guide so you can see all of the apps that we're concerned about. Where you can also there is an entire indicator list of red flag indicators that you can refer back to. The other thing I would have you do is have the conversation with your kids about their experience online. And it doesn't matter what they say, please do not make them wrong. Please don't blame them. Just be actively listening and start that relationship now. I don't care how bad your relationship is with your kid. Let's start that relationship now. And that's really critical that we don't react, that we respond. So go to the website, review the parent guide, and then the apps. Right now, any app that has a chat feature is at risk of grooming your child. We have seen, besides Roblox and Snapchat and the basics, right? We have seen Bible Hub weaponized and used because there's a chat feature. Anything that has a chat feature, please, let's start being vigilant in our conversations. Turn the TV off at dinner. Have conversations with your kids. Start talking about these types of issues. And the other thing that you can do that I really think is going to be meaningful is that if there is an anti-human trafficking training in your area, and again, this is going from we're done with awareness. We're now going into prevention. And here at Untrafficked, we want to teach you how to be a good witness. Because oftentimes you've seen something and you didn't know what to do with it. And you walked away with that pit in your stomach. We want to teach you how to be a good witness. So plug into a local training. If you want us to come do a training in your area, we can do it via Zoom. We can do it in person. We train businesses. We train hotels. We train churches on what to look for, and more specifically, how to report it in a safe manner that doesn't put you or the victim at risk.
Tami, thank you so much for joining us on Not on My Watch. And more importantly, thank you for the very important work that you and your team at untrafficked.org are doing to protect children and help survivors reclaim their lives. We so appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate it so much.
I think one of the most important things that we've learned today is that protecting children begins long before a child ever becomes a trafficking victim. It begins with paying attention, understanding how grooming works, talking to our children, recognizing the warning signs, and having the courage to speak up when something doesn't seem right. To learn more about Tami's work, visit untrafficked.org. And to everyone watching, please help us get this information into the hands of more parents. Like this episode, share it with your family and friends, and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes of Not on My Watch. Because when it comes to protecting our children, awareness is not enough. We have to be willing to act. I'm April Moss. Thank you for watching Not on My Watch. Until next time, stay informed, stay vigilant, and get in the fight.